Hey everyone, and welcome back. I am absolutely thrilled to have you here for this explainer. Today, we're diving deep, literally inside our own bodies. We are going to decode the biological blueprint for muscle growth. It's this crazy, complex process happening inside you right this very second. And by the end of our time together, you're going to understand the fascinating mechanics of how we actually build our physical strength.
To kick things off, let me ask you a super simple question. What really happens when you flex? Think about it. You look in the mirror, you bend your arm, and boom, your bicep pops up. It seems completely instantaneous, right? Almost effortless. But beneath your skin, wow, that everyday action triggers this hidden, incredibly complex web of biological communication, cellular changes, and structural adaptation. Let's peel back the layers and see what's actually going on in there. All right, section 1. Let's meet your muscular system and talk about the sheer scale and everyday importance of our muscles. Because, before we can even talk about how muscles grow, we really need to understand just how massive this system is. They're way more than just what we're checking out in the mirror. Look at this number, over 600. That's how many individual muscles you have in your body right now. Combined with your connective tissue, these hundreds of muscles are quite literally what bind us together. They hold us upright against gravity, and they're responsible for every single movement we make, from the tiny blink of an eye to a full-on, all-out sprint. And to put that scale into perspective, check this out. Our muscles actually make up between 1/3 and 1/2 of our total body weight. Seriously, think about that for a second. Up to 50% of you, literally half your mass, is entirely dedicated to this incredibly dynamic system. It's a huge chunk of who we are. So, the crucial takeaway here is this. Whether or not hitting the gym or bodybuilding is a hobby of yours, your muscles demand your constant attention. Why? Because the way you treat them every single day directly dictates their fate. It's really a use it or lose it situation. Based purely on your daily habits, your muscles are only going to do one of two things. They're either going to wither or they're going to grow. There is no middle ground. Okay, moving on to section 2. Let's look at the brain-muscle connection, using what I like to call the iron door metaphor. Let's explore exactly how we tell our muscles to act. Imagine you're standing right in front of a standard, everyday wooden door, and you're getting ready to pull it open. Your brain and your muscles are perfectly poised for this. Here's exactly how it plays out in chronological order. First, your brain shoots a rapid-fire signal down to the motor neurons inside your arm. The second those neurons get the memo, they fire. This firing causes your arm muscles to contract and then relax. And that contraction, it physically pulls on the bones in your arm, generating the exact movement you need to pull the door open. And the craziest part, that whole shebang happens in just a tiny fraction of a second. But let's escalate the challenge here. What if that door isn't just normal wood? What if it is made of solid, incredibly heavy iron? Well, as the challenge gets bigger, your brain's signal actually gets stronger. Your brain starts rallying more and more motor units, basically calling up biological reinforcements to help you get the job done. But at a certain point, your arm muscles alone simply aren't going to cut it. They can't generate enough tension to pull that solid iron door open by themselves. So what happens then? Well, your brain appeals to the rest of your body for backup. You naturally plant your feet firmly into the ground. You tighten up your belly. You tense up your back muscles. You pull all that together to generate enough force to yank that heavy iron open. Your nervous system is absolutely brilliant. It leverages the resources you already have, your other muscles, to meet a really high-stress demand. That brings us to section 3, the magic of muscle damage and why tearing is actually growing. So while all of that pulling and straining is happening on a macro level, down on a cellular level, your muscle fibers are going through a totally fascinating change. As you expose those fibers to stress, they experience microscopic damage. And here is the twist. In this context, that damage is exactly what we want. It's a good thing. In response to these tiny micro tears, the injured cells release inflammatory molecules called cytokines. These cytokines basically sound the biological alarm. They activate your immune system to rush in and repair the injury. And this immune response right here, that is where the muscle-building magic actually happens. Now, the greater the damage to the muscle tissue, the more your body has to work to repair it. And this constant cycle of damage and repair eventually makes the muscles bigger and stronger as they adapt to progressively greater demands. See, our bodies are completely adapted to our normal everyday activities, so just walking around the house doesn't produce enough stress to stimulate growth. To build new muscle, a biological process we call hypertrophy, our cells literally have to be exposed to higher workloads than they're used to. And remember, the exact reverse is also true. If you don't continuously expose your muscles to some level of resistance, they'll shrink. That's muscular atrophy. So if we want to maximize that beneficial damage for hypertrophy, we really need to talk about eccentric contractions. This happens when you expose a muscle to a high degree of tension, specifically while the muscle is lengthening. Think about doing a bicep curl. It's that downward lowering motion where the muscle is stretching out while still under load. This specific type of tension creates absolutely highly effective conditions for new growth because it causes those essential microscopic tears we were just talking about. Let's pivot to Section 4, Nutrition, Hormones, and Rest, the behind-the-scenes heroes of muscle growth. Because up to now, we've really only been looking at half the picture. As it turns out, muscles rely on a lot more than just physical activity to grow. You could be doing eccentric contractions all day long, but without these three critical non-activity requirements, proper nutrition, hormones, and rest, your body would absolutely never be able to repair those damaged muscle fibers. Let's break down why each of these is a total non-negotiable. First up is your nutrition, and specifically dietary protein. Protein preserves your muscle mass by providing the literal, physical building blocks for new tissue. These building blocks take the form of amino acids. Without adequate protein intake, sure, your immune system rushes to the site of the muscle damage, but it's basically arriving empty-handed. It has no actual materials to rebuild and reinforce those torn fibers. It's kind of like trying to build a brick wall without any bricks. Now, alongside adequate protein, your body heavily relies on naturally occurring hormones. Hormones like insulin-like growth factor and testosterone serve a very specific, absolutely crucial function. They act as chemical messengers that shift your entire body into a dedicated state of tissue repair and growth. They're the chemical green lights that tell the body, hey, it's time to use those amino acids and get to work. And when exactly does that heavy lifting happen? During the night shift. This vital repair process mostly takes place when we are resting, and particularly at night while we're deeply asleep. This is why sleep is such a game changer. If you're tearing your muscles up in the gym, but denying them the rest they crave, that repair phase gets cut dangerously short, completely stalling out your progress. Which leads us nicely into Section 5, the formula for growth, biological variables, and our final takeaways. So we've got the mechanics of movement, the requirement of damage, and the triad of recovery. But it's important to note that biological variables like gender, age, and genetics play undeniable roles in this whole process. For instance, because this repair mechanism relies so heavily on hormones, young men, who naturally just have higher levels of testosterone, do have a biological leg up in the muscle-building game. Furthermore, genetic factors really impact your immune system. Some folks just naturally possess much more robust immune reactions to muscle damage. That means they're better equipped to repair and replace damaged fibers, which directly increases their overall muscle-building potential. But let's bring this all together into our ultimate takeaway for today. Because regardless of your genetics or your age, the fundamental biological rule applies to absolutely everyone. The body responds to the demands you place on it. It all synthesizes down into a super simple 4-step cycle. Number 1, tear your muscles up through challenging workloads. Number 2, eat right to provide the building blocks. Number 3, rest to allow the repair to happen. And number 4, repeat. Doing this consistently ensures you're creating the perfect conditions to make your muscles as big and strong as possible. I want to leave you all with this final, powerful thought. It is with muscles as it is with life. Meaningful growth requires challenge and stress. We've seen the biology behind it in this explainer today. Without resistance, we simply wither. But with controlled stress and proper recovery, we rebuild ourselves stronger than we were before. So I'll leave you with this question. What healthy stress are you going to introduce today to build the strength you need for tomorrow? Keep challenging yourselves, keep growing, and I will see you on the next explainer.